Okay, so I promised I would look at some back squat alternatives. I know it's not really in the spirit of Squatober, but in some cases, folks may not be able to back squat right now for various reasons. And I'll go over that a little bit. In terms of myself, I've had a couple of knee surgeries through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, years of football. A few years ago, actually at the end of one of the Squatobers, I think it was 2019, I managed to hit my tick off the double bodyweight squat, which is great, and I have got nowhere near it since. And it's that thing again, you know, I'm 40, nearly 45 years of age, and when I was starting out doing all this, so I was 20, early mid 20s, whatever. If a 45-year-old was telling me that, you know, oh, maybe squats aren't the best thing to do, I probably would not have listened at all. I know I wouldn't have listened. And I think, unfortunately, you know, as much as being a coach, you're here to help people and recommend maybe certain avenues or ways to train. Ultimately, I think every person has to kind of figure out for themselves what works best. But having said all of that, I think, you know, even if we can't squat with a bar on our back to any kind of major intensity, number one, I still think it's a very important skill to learn. I think everyone should be able to squat well, injuries allowing, and even I think with injuries, starting off very slowly, even bodyweight, and learning how to squat properly is just going to be something that's going to help overall health. And I read something recently about, you know, and I'm skeptical of these numbers sometimes, but say it was something about like after or beyond the age of 35 years of age, no one or 95% of people don't sprint anymore. And even, you notice some of the classes, and I'm actually doing a certification next month or at the end of this month on plyos and progressions and jumps and leaps. And I still think even to, you know, relative intensity, that's still something that's very beneficial in terms of, let's say, anti-aging. Because there's another thing too. There's a big longevity movement, which I'm all for. But I think, again, it's like everything. It's on a kind of a curve or a spectrum. And I think a lot of times these longevity people are kind of going to the point now where things are becoming a bit sterile again. So I do think the whole point of training is to stress our bodies just enough to adapt. So again, there is all these kind of blanket statements about, oh, you know, people shouldn't back squat, people shouldn't deadlift. I don't agree with that. Training age, physiological age, injury history. There's so many factors here taken into account. You get another 45-year-old that hasn't done 22 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and 15 years of football or whatever, and their knees could be fine, and squatting for them is not an issue. So I don't like to say beyond a certain age you shouldn't do this or that, or, you know, I really don't want to impose limits on people. And to be honest, I probably need more for pushing people to squat a little bit. But again, I'm getting off the beaten track here. What I'm going to try and provide with this video is just a few suggestions in terms of movements that we can do. Again, I still think we should try and squat well, body weight for sure, but certainly with a bar on our back. But beyond that, then, if we want to layer intensity onto that movement, there's other kind of things that we can do to kind of get that or cause that stress that will, you know, create that adaptation and help us get strong throughout our core, our legs, primarily our hips, knees. Okay, so yeah, without rambling on, I'll show you some movements that we could substitute for back squats. So the first one here is a goblet squat. I have the wedges here for the heels to kind of elevate the heels. For this one, I find this is generally something that's lacking in people that are finding back squats challenging is ankle mobility. The wedges can help with this. Again, years ago I might have frowned down upon using these, but I do see the benefit in using them now. And with this one here for the goblet squat, the thing about this is we're not really loading, or we're certainly not actually loading our spine. The weight will be out in front. Now again, with this, because we're holding the weight here, the legs probably won't be the limiting factor. It's probably going to be posture, it'll be upper back strength. It'll be core strength as well, but that's okay because again, we're just trying to improve and load up our squat patterns right now. So here, we have a dumbbell, and again, that's one of the awkward things about this. You have a 30-kilo dumbbell here, but as you get heavier, it can become an issue to load up here. It's going to be harder to hold this weight. All I'm doing here, standard squat pattern, big breath in, embrace, lock down my rib cage, bone back, bend the knees. Bottom position, again, the heels elevated will help with this. And just driving back up, strong core and glutes, okay? Now with this one, we have some strength standards here. This is stuff that I've used from the OPEC certifications I've done in the past. For this, we'd be looking for 50% of body weight for 20 reps. Yeah, 20 reps, okay? So it is a lot. Now, I've done this in the past. And again, one thing you'll find out very quickly once you get that weight to here is this very much about your upper back as well, arm strength as well too. So there's a lot more going on than just the legs. But still, I think this is a movement that we can bring intensity to and load up if we are struggling with the back squats. So again, for men and for women, we'll be looking at 50% of our body weight for 20 repetitions. So that's something we can work towards. I wouldn't expect people to come out of the gates and just try and hit that in the first go. With progressions, we can build up to that, and hopefully over the coming weeks, it's something we can look at loading up. So that is our heels elevated goblet squat. Now again, I've seen variations where you could use chains, weighted vests. It is a bit clunky. So probably for this one, I probably would stick to something simple with just a dumbbell on its own. So next up we have the Hatfield squats. I am a big fan of these. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get the safety squat bar. So with this one, what I want to do, just set ourselves up like we're doing a normal squat, okay? So about sternum height here. Next, I'm going to get the dip bars. Please, when you're using the dip bars, put them back where you found them. So I'm going to load this up around, or set up around waist height, all right? So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to have the bar, safety squat bar. Now one thing actually, just before I get under this barbell, I'm not going to use plates at the moment, but when we're doing this bar in particular, I don't know if the diameter here is a bit smaller than the standard barbells. The plates tend to move a little bit, so I would recommend, advise, or even force people to put clips on this. I didn't myself one day, and I nearly took my head off, and I'm just only sorry I didn't have it on video, because it would have been definitely a fail army video. But when you're using plates, clip the plates when you're using this barbell, all right? So what I'm gonna do first is initially take the grips on the safety squat bar. Again, feet under the barbell, strong core, lift it up with my hips, and coming back. Now take your time on this, because again, you wanna get a good foot position. I don't want to be too close to these handles, so I don't want to clip the handles with the handles on the barbell. Okay, I don't want to be back too far either. So I might take 1 or 2 goes with an empty barbell to feel your range here, figure out where you should be. Squat stance is the same. Now hands will be here, okay, to support. Now, the nice thing about this is, number one, the safety squat bar, because the weight's hanging a bit lower on the barbell, there won't be the same kind of axial loading or stress going through my spine here. So it's a little bit easier on the lower back. Secondly, because I'm using the hand support, that reinforces my posture a little bit here too. So it takes a bit more stress off of the back. I love this for folks with any kind of knee issues, apprehension around just general back squatting, but particularly for people that are taller, folks with long femurs as well. This really allows us to load up the movement, the squat pattern, and it also means our back is not a limiting factor with this configuration, this whole setup. So from here, hands on that bar, I'm gonna brace. I'm still gonna do my kind of big belly breath into here, lock down my rib cage, strong glutes. And again, depending on what we want to do or achieve here, I can shift my weight forward a bit more to get more quads here, more of an ankle bend here, and I'm gonna just drive through the floor and come straight back up. So as I always say with every squat variation, when I'm coming out of the pocket, I don't want to start scooping with my back. All of this stays locked in here, and it's almost like I'm pressing my legs through the floor, coming straight back up, okay? So again, I really like this variation. For taller folks especially, it's less, the back doesn't really become a limiting factor here. It really allows us to put a lot of weight through those legs and get the quads, get the hips really working for this one. So Hatfield squat is another great substitute that we can look at as well. Another variation here we'll look at is the belt squats. We have this attachment in the gym because it's not common. Now, it's a bit clunky setting this up, but it is worth the effort, all right? So I'll show you, I'll use these blocks here and I'll show you how you need these now in a minute as well. All I'm going to do is get ourselves set up. Like I said, it's a little bit awkward from here. Try not to lose any fingers. This has been another great addition for folks that just can't tolerate heavy weights on their back with a barbell. So again, it could be a bit of trial and error here initially in terms of figuring out how high we need to go. We should be okay here for the purpose of this. Again, let's make sure we're locked in here. Now with this one, I would recommend, it's not compulsory, but much like the Hatfield squat, it can feel nicer with some hand support as well. So one thing we can do is you can get one of the dip bars and set them up here too. I know what you're thinking. It's a warm up, setting this thing up, but here we go, okay? So now with this, I have the blocks here because it just allows me to attach the belt to here without having to squat all the way towards the floor, okay? So it just means that we start a bit higher here and it's easier to get this on. So I'm gonna get one of the rings around here, other one here. Okay, so what we have here is just the safety. We can take that off. That will allow us to squat lower in a second. Now again, obviously, I'm kind of probably being lazy here. We can load this up, and because we're not loading our spine with the barbell, we're really just getting it at the hips here. The back doesn't become a limiting factor for us, all right? So this should allow us to put a good bit of weight on here. And when we get used to this configuration, we can absolutely move more weight on this than we can on a back squat. So again, a bit of trial and error here. I want to have the belt kind of just sitting more or less in my lower back or just above my waist. Now from here I can have the hand support. I like to take a light enough grip, but I'm not doing a death grip here. Again, there's a little bit of trial and error in terms of finding your foot position. Some folks like to come back a bit further. It can be more hamstring, more glute dominant. I like to stay forward a little bit because again, I really want to try and work my quads. We do accessory work like Romanian deadlifts and other glute and hamstring work. So I feel that the posterior chain does get worked a bit, but I'd like to get more into my quads for this, again, because of my knees. I feel having stronger quads will help. Hand support here, again, back's not the limiting factor, but I still want to be just disciplined around my core, my posture, and my breathing. Lock it in, you come back. And again, I'm just keeping that nice shin angle here so I can really get into my quads. Strong through my lower back, I'm not scooping up, keep my rib cage locked down. And I'm thinking about like a leg press almost, just press into the floor, glutes. Again, light enough hand support, just driving back up, all right? So we can change our foot position slightly if we need to, and again, we can have more weight towards our toes, towards midfoot, to get more into my quads here as well. So when we're done, fire this guy down, gently squat down, and there we go. We can release this here. I don't think we need to clip the weights on here because nothing's really moving laterally, it's just straight up and down. But again, because the back is not a limiting factor on this movement, we should be able to load this up and really bring some intensity into the legs for this position, this movement, this squat pattern. Okay, next we have the good old leg extension. Now again, a lot of people are swearing by this for knee health. And it's funny, over the years, I've seen people talk about closed chain exercises being better than open chain exercises, open chain because my feet are off the floor. I had a knee reconstruction years ago, and anecdotally I found a lot of these isolation movements, leg extensions, leg curls and the like, to be actually very good for my knees. Just made my knees feel better. So this one is a great way of loading up our quads. Now, having said all that, my knees are very temperamental, and there's just some days where I start doing leg extensions and it just does not feel good. It hurts my knees a little bit. So what I've found helps sometimes in those days is take the weight right back down. Just start lighter and get a few high rep sets first, just to try and kind of get more blood flow into my knees or heat my knees up. But it just feels better doing that. Now with this again, we're kind of limited just with the setup that we have here. It's not the best, it's not the worst. What I try and do to get some more engagement to my rec fem is I'll try to kind of lean back slightly, just holding on to here. Now again, I can start off first, like I said, just to get a few reps with both legs. And then once I start to feel I'm warming up and I feel comfortable, what we can do from there is we can just go either single leg, just do one leg at a time. I like to try and keep a little bit of tension throughout, so that I'm not just kind of like kicking up and then come down. I just want to try and keep a bit of tension throughout. So again, this is another great way of really loading up the legs too. There's no stress really on back or anything like that at all. Isolates the front of the thighs. Obviously we'll have to do our posterior chain work as well, but just in terms of just getting the legs feeling like they're working, getting a nice quad pump, getting good for the knees, the leg extension is another great option that we can look at as well. Okay, and it is a single leg exercise, Bulgarian split squats. I don't think anyone likes these particularly. I really don't like them, but unfortunately I just find, like I said again, cranky knees, my own knees being very temperamental, that these are probably one of the better exercises for, I always say this, but for kind of recalibrating my knees. It's very bro sciencey, it's very anecdotal again, but I just feel like if I do a few sets of these, my knees just, not in the moment, but certainly the next day or so, they always feel a bit better. Now, this is gonna really work, you know, depending on your foot position, it can get more anterior, you can get more posterior kind of musculature here. What I like to do in my setup for this is to go 3 feet from the bench. So I'm gonna start from 1, 2, and 3. Now again, maybe I'm just being a coward, but I feel like I can get a lot of this or from this movement without going too heavy. But again, I want to keep tension the whole time. This is, I think, something that people tend to end up doing is they'll either extend fully to the top of the repetition or they'll either bounce off the ground and they're just losing tension for a split second. What I want to do here is getting my toes back on the bench. I'm not wrapping my foot around the bench like this. Now from here, a mistake people make is to try and stay totally upright. Again, that's going to dump pressure into our back. So a little forward lean is fine, like we're back squatting. From here again, I'm going to lock down. I'm going to go bum back, bend the knees. I'm sitting into my hip here a bit. Not touching the floor. So a lot of times people will bounce or touch off the floor. Everything will disengage for a second and they have to try and kind of reorientate coming back up. So I'm not quite touching the floor. Maybe kiss the ground just gently with the knee and I'm coming back up, squeezing through here. Again, I'm not locking out. I'm delaying my knee extension. I'm going to bring my glute forward a bit, okay? Now, again, I'm only doing this body weight just to show you guys what we're doing here. But what we can look to do, and another strength standard for this, is to be able to do this for 6 repetitions with 1/3 of our body weight in each hand. Okay. Now again, I'd always say as a bilateral to unilateral ratio, I'd have, if people can do a body weight back squat for at least 1 repetition, I'd be looking for that 1/3 of our body weight in each hand for 6 repetitions on each leg for this one.